Hello, and we're back. Technical difficulties fixed out. Bill is currently dinking around with his phone because we're going to be making YouTube videos for the show, apparently. Bill, turn your mic on.
I thought you already turned it on for me.
No, I didn't turn it on for you.
Okay, well, yeah, you can officially hear me now. Right on.
Hey, Bill, how's it going? Long time no see.
Yeah, long time no chat.
Yeah.
So yeah, Caleb just kind of mentioned. Some of you may already know about this, but one of the things that we have just been able to recently do, finally after putting it off for
8 months.
About 8 months now. We've been doing this for about 8 months. Is get podcasts up. Now, technically, we still don't have an actual podcast, a downloadable podcast put up, but because we do have probably about a dozen or so shows pre-recorded. I was able to work my audio editing magic, my sick computer skills, and my technical know-how, and edit the audio, and that we now have it uploaded onto YouTube, so you can actually listen to our old shows. Now, granted, our old shows, particularly the ones that were first semester, are not very good.
Not as good as I remember them being. You know?
Honestly, yeah. At the time, I was like, man, yeah, this is a great show. We were killing. We were getting so deep, but we're stuttering. We can't really hold the topic for very long. A few times, we're just bickering at one another, me constantly cutting you off every other sentence.
Also, I apologize for my voice. It doesn't sound like I imagine it does, which is a little disappointing because, well, yeah, I mean, in my head, my voice sounds great, but outside, it's a little weird.
You sound pretentious. Even just the sound of your
voice
voice
not
sounds snarky.
Snarky.
Snarky, yes. Just
anyways,
but that's the general rule of thumb. Everybody hates the sound of their own voice. I hear my own voice on the recording. I absolutely hate it. I don't think I sound like that at all. I can't recognize the sound of my own voice.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we had guests in here, when Joel or Tyler or somebody else was in here, we had three of us talking at once. I had trouble figuring out when it was me talking. I couldn't differentiate between, like, is that Joel? It doesn't sound like Joel. Oh, wait, that's me. Holy cow.
Yep. I don't know. And it's even worse, like, when you try to sing. Because I had this point in my life where I was taking choir classes and stuff like that, and I had this idea that, oh, yeah, I can sing if I want to. And so I tried it, and I recorded it, made a little tape, and then I played it back.
Please tell me you still have that.
No.
That
tape got shredded.
Oh, no.
It was horrible.
I would do anything to hear that.
No.
Oh, God.
No, no. I do have the video of you, however, dancing to I'm Blue by iPhone 95, which I found the link to the YouTube video finally, so that is going on the Philosophy Talks page, if I haven't posted already.
Wait, you found the video?
Yeah.
I know I showed you before.
Yeah. I found it through that.
Oh, God.
Yeah. In fact, I think it's already been posted on the Philosophy Talks page.
No, it hasn't.
I think it was posted last semester.
It hasn't.
You sure about that?
No, I'm positive it hasn't.
All right.
We haven't posted that many things on there. But anyway, yes, there is a YouTube video out there of me from
high school,
from senior year of high school. It was for a speech project, and we had to do a lip sync. And a little background: I was pretty much a master when it came to procrastinating. So we had several weeks to work on this project. I did not have a song picked out until 10 o'clock the night before I had to present my lip sync. And not once did I actually rehearse it. Instead, I just burned I'm Blue, Dabba-dee Dabba-die to a CD and just listened to it on repeat over and over and over again. I probably listened to it probably about 40 or 50 times in a day. Over a span of 2 days, rather. And I planned the entire dance in my head. Like, throughout the day while I was in all my classes, I was planning out the dance in my head, exactly what I was going to do, just internally choreographing it. It was a beautiful thing.
And it worked until about halfway through the video, at which point you forgot what you... So you start spinning and shaking your butt.
Trying to shake my butt. You can actually see I am trying very hard to shake my butt while singing I'm Blue, Dabba-dee Dabba-die, and I can't do it. It takes me...
You can't twerk, boy. You can't twerk.
It is... Oh, God, it's a terrible thing.
Speaking of twerk, it's actually quite difficult to do, like, the butt shaking, like, twerking thing. I tried it. Like, I actually pulled, like, a minor, like, muscle in, like, my back hamstring. No joke.
think you were doing something wrong there.
I'm pretty sure I was. I understand. Like you have to like wobble like your thighs, and then like the whole package goes with it. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure. There's science to it, and I don't know the science.
Huh.
So, yeah.
Anyway, segue now. This is a
How do you-
philosophy
that's true.
talk show. So
How do you say-
let us start philosophizing.
All right. Well, I mean, it's been a long time since we've been back on the horse.
Since both of us have been back in here, it's been a while since we were both in here at the same time.
In fact, I'm not even taking any philosophy classes this summer. I'm focusing on my second major.
Hmm.
And I know Bill is as well, although he is teaching the philosophy class.
That I am teaching epistemology now. I much prefer epistemology over ethics. It's much more interesting.
Well, it
But,
sucks to be you, because what are we talking about today, Bill?
Animal ethics.
Can you enunciate that, please?
Animal ethics.
Animal ethics.
Yes.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And did we decide who is going to play the role of animal advocate and devil's advocate?
I'm nose-nosing for animal
no.
advocate. Animal rights advocate.
You're going to be the animal rights advocate?
No. Because I would.
Oh, okay. You're going to be the devil's advocate. Okay, I was going to be
we can
surprised.
flip-flop halfway through, though.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, what would you say is the basic question then of what we're talking about here is do animals have rights?
I think you even go deeper than that. Say, do we give animals ethical consideration? And then through that, how much consideration does that mean animals have rights?
Right. So
yes. So it's pretty complicated. Let's talk about a couple of terms here.
Heel.
Heel.
Wait.
Super quick. So first off, rights. Rights are a term that we give to a particular type of ethical idea.
A moral agent, if you will.
Well,
Well,
rights
we
are
can
things
define
that belong to moral agents, usually.
Yes.
So a right is something that a person, or in this case, an animal or a thing, has that has to be acknowledged by other moral agents. So I have the right to remain silent in the event I'm arrested. I'm allowed that by a moral entity such as the government, or by a religious entity such as a god, or even by some sort of natural entity. So nature, you could argue, and some people do, gives rights to living beings,
Right.
whether it be the right to not be killed, or things along that nature.
Right. And it's important to differentiate when we say right. There's a very strong distinction between a right and a privilege.
Yes.
A right is generally something that is innate. You are born with it. It's not something that is given to you. Like, rights are not granted to you. You are born with them, essentially.
With one
Whereas-
exception. With moral contract theory.
Well, social contract theory.
Social contract theory.
Yes, but that's a discussion for a different day.
Well, actually, that's going to be brought up today.
Okay, fine, fair enough. But anyway, just broadly speaking, yeah, like a right is something that you are born with. It's not necessarily given to you. Broadly speaking, to differentiate that, a privilege is something that is not inherently yours. It is something that is granted to you. You are given you are allowed to have certain privileges, whereas a right is something that people can't necessarily take away from you.
Precisely.
Well, they can't morally take it away from you.
If they do, then they're in the wrong.
Right.
Whereas a privilege, no. So, that said, what does it mean to have a right, and how do you come about having rights? Well, there's a couple basic theories that talk about this. One that we talked about previously on the show last year, and also we touched on it right now, is something called social contract theory. And it was developed by a couple of old philosophers. One of them, Hobbes. There was a social contract theorist who disagreed with much of Hobbes' work by the name of Locke. Those are some of the two big familiar names. You probably heard about them in high school or Philosophy 101, things like that. But the gist of this idea is that how do rights come about? Well, they are created by human society. So humans live together, and then we come up with these things called rights so we can survive as a society without all killing each other off. so we can have some modicum of safety.
Who was the other French Enlightenment thinker who had the social contract theory? His name is escaping me right now.
Hobbes and Locke.
No,
and
not
then-
not Hobbes, not Locke. They're the person who originally coined the term social contract theory.
Oh, Rousseau.
Yeah, Rousseau. That's it.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yes. So yeah, Rousseau as well. He actually coined the term, although it's not in his works, from what I remember, the noble savage.
No, it is.
The term noble savage?
No, not noble savage.
Yeah, I thought that wasn't attributed
social
to him.
contract.
Oh, yeah.
That was the title of his work.
Yeah. So yeah, this idea is then that. So imagine right now you're sitting in a room, possibly with someone, possibly no one. I'm sitting in this room with Bill, and if I wanted to, it is within my power to grab the straw of my 44-ounce frozen slushie and to stab Bill to death. It wouldn't be very nice of me to do so, and it would be in breach of social contract under
then I could
Rousseau
probably
and
take
Hobbes and
it.
Locke's theory. What?
With given that you are being wielded by straw.
Do you have
with
any
a straw,
idea how sharp these things are?
that, and given the fact that I have about 60 pounds on you,
Like the little spoon thing they have in the back, like you pull it out and like you try to lick the last little bits of sugar off it, you will cut up the inside of your mouth. There will be nothing left. It will be a bloody, ravaged tongue field area that's just it's destroyed. You don't mess with those straws, man. They're meant to be in there. You put the lid on, it's done. I'm serious, dude.
Right. Anyway,
So many bad childhood memories.
so yeah, you were saying that like technically you could, if you want to, it is within the realm of possibility that you could do that, that you could attack me, but you do not have the right to attack me.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
If I do, then I'd be compromising my own rights. The reason that I have rights, according to social contracts theory, is because Bill gave me those rights in exchange for him getting similar rights. Now, all this is implicit. There's obviously no real written social contract hiding somewhere. The term is, it's this invisible meta-psychological, sociological phenomenon that Rousseau, Hobbes, and Locke were talking about and were thinking of.
Yeah, and the essential idea is that when you are a member of society, you implicitly agree to this social contract in order to be one with society. And that contract,
Yes.
it embodies all members of that society. Now, how do you define a society? I mean, it could be on a global scale, it could be on a local scale, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The particulars of that aren't really important, but that's the gist of it.
So that's one theory as to what rights are. A more general theory, the one we tend to work with best, is utilitarianism, which is the suggestion that utilitarianism has a couple of precepts within it, and we've talked about this before on the show. And if you haven't caught that show, I'm pretty sure that's an episode that we taped.
We did.
We
Yeah.
did.
We had at least 2 or maybe 3 shows on utilitarianism.
At least
I love utilitarianism. It's just fun.
it's fun to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
But
I mean, especially if you're an analytic, just like looking at the various consequences. Well, anyway,
but
we'll
check it out back on YouTube.
Yeah.
It'll be there sooner or later. And
Should
catch
be.
up. It's a great study guide.
Yeah. But anyway, to briefly define utilitarianism, essentially saying that the morality of a given decision is based upon like the amount of good that. Well, I'm terrible at explaining this.
That's about right.
The morality of a given decision is judged by the good that is brought about by it.
Yeah, and good in
So-
this, it's being quantified. So you
Right.
you can have more or less good by doing a certain action.
Right. So saying like if you have a choice that brings about a greater amount of good, that is therefore the correct decision.
Yes. Now we are equivocating a little bit because we haven't explained for utilitarians what is good. What does good mean? Is it because it's such like a term that's undefined when you really think about it. So what makes something good? It's kind of a hard question.
Mhm.
So what do the utilitarians say? Well,
It's just a very general description of a preferable outcome, I guess you could say.
no, I mean specifically, they equate good to absence of pain or lack of pain.
Some utilitarians will.
And many-
And
many modern
basically speaking, it
utilitarians.
would be minimizing pain to maximize the greatest amount of pleasure for the most amount of people.
Yeah. I mean, the maximizing pleasure thing, that one's debated. That's actually why I don't agree with utilitarianism, because that school of utilitarianism is very hedonistic. But
Yes.
so good, then, in terms of animal rights, what we'll be discussing, some of the arguments for it are the suggestion that physically capable of feeling pain and suffering.
Yes.
Psychologically, he can have psychological pain, release stress hormones, I think cortisol, and then that can cause damage to his normal bodily functions. He can feel physical pain, like cutting, branding, beating. And then we take his life. So there's a lot up into that. So let's begin to dissect this. Let's talk about this in 3 distinct camps. One, is it morally wrong to cause pain to an animal? So kicking a puppy.
So, well, are we saying like pain that serves a purpose or does not serve a purpose?
No
We'll
purpose.
just like abusing animals.
Yeah, just abusing
Is
animals.
that morally wrong to do so? Okay.
Yes. Because, I mean, we got to start somewhere. And that's a good place to start.
Right. Or are you going to highlight the 3, or are we just going to move on with that for now?
I think let's start with that one, and then we'll go on to the other 2.
Okay. I'll take this one.
Are you for or against?
I'm gonna say against, but
Okay,
I'll give one perspective. But anyway, so yeah, this has been a question that is it necessarily wrong to harm animals? Even if it doesn't necessarily serve a purpose. And the one of the earliest philosophers, Thomas Aquinas, actually wrote quite a bit about this concerning animal rights. As you know, Thomas Aquinas, he's basically just the neo-Aristotle. He pretty much just like copy and pasted everything that Aristotle ever wrote after philosophy took a 1500-year hiatus. But anyway, what Aquinas believed is that he went from the Christian perspective, is that animals do not have souls. Like, they are not necessarily suffering. Like, they're feeling physical pain, yes, but that does not equate to actual suffering. He liked to make that distinction between physical pain and like actual suffering, because animals do not have a soul the way that humans do. But he argued that it is still morally wrong to harm the animals, but not for the animal's sake, but rather because if you were to beat a dog or torture an animal, if it did not serve a purpose, you would be bringing harm to your soul. I mean that like the reason why it is wrong for you to harm animals is because it is damaging to yourself rather than to the animals. The actual animal's sake was not really a concern for him.
All right, well, go on, carry on with utilitarianism, because that one speaks pretty clearly to that. There's no gain.
Right. Yeah. There is nothing to gain from that. It's just saying that when it comes to torturing animals, it is not justified suffering. But suffering can be justified in some sense if it serves a purpose. Say, if you are slaughtering cows in order to feed a population, like you have a slaughterhouse so that we can get hamburgers so that we can eat. That serves a purpose. Therefore, it is justified suffering because it is beneficial for humans to do so, because it serves our own purpose. From Aquinas' perspective, animals and all of the living things on Earth, the Earth itself was put here for our own benefit. Therefore, if we are not using it in a way that directly benefits humanity and is beneficial to the human soul, then it is morally wrong.
All right, well, I guess it's my turn then. So
Take it away.
Mr. Aquinas, I'm sorry, bro. I know you got your dualism and stuff, but I am buying this jazz. I'm talking about souls and yada. I mean, we talked about this briefly before. I'm not going to go into it now. It's a quick rebuttal. This whole thing, the physical, non-physical things, how are they supposed to interact?
Oh,
Don't make that.
That's a different
Don't
debate.
you bop me?
That's a different
Don't you
debate.
bop me? No.
Quit Quit dodging the issue.
Even if he was speaking metaphorically, which he wasn't. All right, so I harm an animal, and then because I've harmed that animal, it causes damage to my psyche. Well, I remember.
yeah, you could substitute soul just for your psychological well-being.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I know.
serial killers start out by torturing animals, essentially.
Well, I ain't no serial
So
killer,
they
and I
say.
remember with some fondness being a little kid in the summer and grabbing a can of bug spray and a lighter and going outside and torching the like I turned the sidewalks into Hades, and there were like ant families. Did you ever see ants when you were a kid? You know the battle scene? Like that was messed up. That was like,
Oh, you're talking about the movie Ants.
oh yeah,
Oh yeah, that was dark.
oh yeah, no,
It got bloody. It's just the one dude, his head is just chilling there.
yeah, no, that scarred me a little bit.
Children's movie.
Maybe that's why I did this to ants. It's hard to say. But yeah, no, I was the same thing to actual ants on the sidewalk with my, deep
Just
flamethrower.
spewing acid on them.
Yeah. Well, except it was fire because it
Yes,
was
right.
bug spray. Highly flammable. It was so much fun when I was a kid. Yeah, I don't think I've been like negatively affected by destroying ant colonies by the tens of hundreds. Don't give me that look, Bill.
I think that says more about your personality than you are willing to admit. I mean, I think now that I know this about you, that so many more things make sense.
Oh man.
You're just a regular high functioning sociopath.
Oh my goodness. In either case, it seems unlikely that there's certainly that's the case, but our society's full of and the term sadistic people. To the point where there's terms in every culture for taking pleasure in someone else's pain. Schadenfreude being the lovely German one everyone likes. So you see your ex from high school, and she got. No, I don't want to say it, but she got pregnant, or is in like a really messy relationship, or has done nothing with her life. What?
Boob job?
No.
No.
You got one? Don't answer that question. Moving on. So, and you're like, that feels good. I came out on top. Yeah, that's Schadenfreude. And that's a pretty normal sensation.
Disable.
You messing with the mic, bro.
Anyway,
That everyone experiences.
lean forward so we can make sure we're in the video. Whatever.
That everyone experiences. And there's no, serious problem with that. It's pretty normal. So, there's some, with severe animal torture, then it's kind of a problem. Does that mean that it's immoral to, go out and kick bunnies? On those grounds, I'd say no. Let's even take it a little further, because, you didn't bring up the utilitarianism bit too much, and we're going to have to soon. We talked about social contract a little bit. So, I know that I can't morally go and kill Bill. Because if I did so, then I would be voiding some of my own rights. So there's moral repercussions on both sides. The whole structure is very fragile. If it breaks, all chaos reigns loose. That's the idea behind this. So I can't do this to Bill, but I don't have any ethical considerations for Percy the cow. Why? Why don't I? Okay. Well, because Percy doesn't have any ethical considerations to me. And we call this reciprocity.
Yeah,
He doesn't reciprocate.
Percy cannot reciprocate that morality.
Exactly.
Percy does not take into consideration your feelings, your rights, your well-being, your happiness in how Percy may interact with you. If Percy saw that it may serve his own purpose to kill you and eat you, he would have no qualms of doing so.
I can't sit down with Percy and be like, all right, bro, here's what's up. I ain't going to eat you, you ain't going to eat me, all right? And then I ain't going to hurt you, you ain't going to hurt me. So we're cool, right? No, because Percy the cow will gore me if he so chooses.
If given the opportunity to. If you give him that straw, or he will just he will hit those 5 pressure points. You take 5 steps and your heart explodes.
Yeah. Same thing as
We made a Kill Bill
Moving on.
reference. Why not one more?
moving on.
I was looking for an in to make that reference.
Spoiler alert. So
Who hasn't seen Kill Bill? Come on.
let's think about a lion. I'm out in the jungles and I see a lion prowling behind a bush. He hasn't noticed me yet. And I have my elephant gun. Do I shoot the lion? Well, damn right I'm going to shoot the lion. Why? Because if he doesn't kill me, I've got to kill him. It's one or the other. I mean, maybe both of us can get away unscathed. Maybe. But there's no serious way to tell if that's going to be the case. It's preemptive self-defense. So, that said, there's no ethical considerations brought to me by the lion. There's no reason to have any back. I mean, it's a nice thing to do, like giving someone flowers. It's not something that, under social contract theory, is a necessity. There's no way you can justify it under that bare bones argument for what morality is. It's not possible. So, in that respect, it seems like causing pain to an animal willy-nilly is not wrong. What do you have to say, Bill?
Oh, I have nothing to add.
What do you have nothing to add? We can't end on that note.
Well, no, I mean, I'm working on something to say about Darwinian theory, but we can get to that later.
All right. Well, then I'll just rebut myself.
Okay, yeah, do that.
I don't know how though.
I
All right,
know,
so
flawless logic.
oh, what can I say?
Right. Well, I mean, that could be a good segue into Darwinism.
Why are we talking about Darwinism?
Well, I mean, just like the just like natural order of life, like survival of the fittest.
Oh, you mean
like
Spencerism?
What?
Distinction between the two: Spencerism, Darwinism. So I'm gonna want to say Spencerism. It's a theory of Darwinism, and it tends to relate to like a social order of Darwinism.
Relating ethics into it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So social Darwinism.
Basically.
Okay. But even just going beyond that, I mean, like social Darwinism is pretty much limited to, well, society. But if you take the basic concept of Darwinism, of survival of the fittest, I mean that includes that rule applies both within a species and between species. Like every individual living thing, they are fighting for their own survival. You could argue that they have the right to fight for their own survival by any means. Life is itself is a constant competition, both between different competing species for food, shelter, and water and resources, and even within a species for the most strongest members of a particular species to advance and reproduce and whatever.
Right. Well, I'm gonna want to stop you there.
Okay.
And I'm going to, I'm gonna play the naturalistic fallacy card. So a naturalistic fallacy,
That's
for those
my
of
card. I usually pull
you who are not, well, you should know better. Those of you who are not, what's the word? Acquainted with, it's this idea that just because something is natural or occurs in nature doesn't mean that it has the moral high ground.
Right. Doesn't mean that just because that is the natural way that things occur, it is necessarily the right way that things occur.
Precisely.
Right.
So, I'm going to want to claim, so just because something occurs that way in nature doesn't necessarily, one, mean that they have the right to survive. Because what's the thing that's giving that right? It's hard to say, rights just occur naturally, spontaneously. There has to be a mechanism that causes its existence. Right. And secondly, even if that were the case, that an animal has the right to survive, I can say, I have the right to do so however I see fit. And I see fit doing so by playing with my food like a cat does.
Mm-hmm.
Because cats are evil. I mean, they torture mice.
Oh, yeah.
So same thing. So that said,
but and you could take it a step further and say if you go back to the lion example, and if you were holding a gun, and if the lion is walking nearby you, and if he spots you, then the lion will kill you and eat you. What the heck is that? T. I mean, some people may argue that, like, if you have the gun, that you do not have the right to shoot that lion because that lion is just looking out for itself. Say if that lion decides to attack you and kill you, it's not doing so because it wishes to cause harm to you. It is eating you because it needs to survive. It just needs to eat. It's not necessarily trying to bring about harm, and you you can't necessarily call that selfish when there really is no alternative.
Well, yeah, but so do I.
Right.
And maybe the best way for our society to survive, and I'm not arguing for this is playing devil's advocate, is that, I don't know, maybe the best way for our society to exist is to torture animals using the factory farm system we have set up. Because it's quite efficient. You can't deny that.
It's very efficient, and it's very beneficial to us.
It's also very, torturous. There's a lot of moral gray area going on in there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people say, no, it's not even gray area. That's just morally wrong.
Right.
And on many fronts, I agree with them. So let's go back and let's try to pull ourselves up here. Why is it wrong, then, or why would it be wrong, to just torture an animal for no purpose? Okay, well, we have to rest, then, on utilitarianism. We're going to have to say, all right, so you're causing suffering for no reason. Animals are capable of feeling suffering. What's the difference between a human suffering and an animal suffering? Right? The more we look into science, things like that, the distinctions between humans and animals become significantly more blurred.
Right.
I mean, there's a joke. People say, "Yeah, oh no, I'll believe evolution when you can show me an uncle or a monkey that looks like my uncle." No, the case, yeah, it's become.
That's a terrible joke.
That was not. It's not my joke. Otherwise, it'd be great.
Okay.
One of my high school teachers said it.
Right. Anyway.
Yeah, it was a bad case. Anyways, so you just totally derailed my train of thought. I hate you, man. I was getting somewhere.
Utilitarianism. Similarities between the way animals experience pain or pleasure and the way humans do. How it's not so distinct as we may like to think.
Yeah. Well, there's no real difference.
Right.
I mean, it's the same chemical compounds traveling through similar neural pathways, eliciting the same kind of response. You can say, well, humans are obviously different than animals. Well, in some respects, yes, but in many other respects, we're not. More respects, we're more like animals than we are not like animals.
Well, we literally are animals, but
lower animals.
Well, anyway, but there still is a very distinct difference in how we perceive animal suffering versus human suffering. Because when we see or hear about animal suffering, we are not able to empathize with that in the same way we do with human suffering.
Oh, come on now! You saw that Sarah McLachlan commercial. Every time I just turn
make you feel like a terrible person.
What? Don't say. I would not pay. I would. It's hard to call.
Anyway, but in some cases, yes, to a certain extent, we can empathize with animals. We do not want to see a little puppy drown. We feel bad for that puppy. We don't want to see it drown. We're I don't know if empathize is the right word in that scenario, but sympathize at least. We do not like to witness suffering unless you have severe psychological issues.
Yeah.
But whether it be animal suffering or human suffering. But in the case of getting a steak on the table, because it is not right in front of you, you do not have to witness the suffering that went into you getting your meal. You do not, if you eat meat, you do not have to witness firsthand the animal suffering.
Right. So let's move on to
it's kind of the out of sight, out of mind. You are not forced to empathize with it, and you may know that it's going on, but sort of in the back of your mind, you don't really feel any kind of connection with it. You don't really feel any guilt.
Well, that's our segue into point 2 then. Is it moral to? I think we can say that despite animal ethics not fitting into the social contract as 100% fit, it fits into utilitarianism quite well. And the best moral theories I've ever encountered tend to be some kind of blend of contractarianism and deontology, so rights-based ethics, many of which stem from utilitarianism. And even that seems to work. So it seems that animals have some kind of, maybe not rights, but ethical consideration. So it would be wrong to just go out and kick bunnies.
Right, just for the hell of it. Even if you... if you get your kicks out of kicking bunnies, if that brings you joy to kick little baby bunnies around, the pleasure that you get out of that does not justify the pain that it may cause those rabbits. I mean, you may get some pleasure out of it, but not enough to justify that suffering. Now, if we look at it from Percy's perspective, if we kill Percy, we are causing suffering for Percy the cow. But by slaughtering him and butchering him, then we can feed. How many people do you think a cow can feed?
Well, surprisingly,
a lot of people, I imagine,
for one meal. But bear in mind that cow. What did they say? It's like how many acres of land does it take for one cow or one steak or something like that?
Well, not acres, but just like how much energy actually goes into it. We may talk about that in a little bit, but what I'm getting at is if we kill Percy the cow in order to feed our friends and family, or even a small village or something, it can feed a lot of people, it can sustain a lot of people, and it can bring about a lot of good in that sense by providing nourishment for those people. So it's very difficult to weigh the benefits we get from killing Percy, the pleasure we get out of eating Percy, it's very difficult to quantify that and compare it to the pain and suffering that we have to cause Percy in order to get our meal.
Yes, but it is possible to say that I could just eat veggies.
Yeah, I mean
because then there's no suffering caused except to the plants. But bear in mind that the suffering there is very different, and the pain there, we can't begin to consider what that pain is like if it exists at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
we could just all be sun gazers and just live off of water.
I remember reading a book when I was a kid that had that.
Yeah. Do you know that's actually a thing that people? There's actually movements of people who believe that you can get all the energy that you need by gazing at the sun and absorb its nutrients, because apparently humans conduct photosynthesis. There are people who actually believe in that. It's hilarious.
No, that's a troll.
I've seen documentaries on it. I am not kidding. It's hilarious, but it will give you the worst face palm ever.
Do they eat?
They claim that they do not have to.
That's not possible.
I know. That's why it's hilarious.
Oh,
I'm not kidding. If you look at the Wikipedia page for sun gazing, even the first line is defining what it is the belief that you can survive without sustenance from food or water and get all of your sustenance just from gazing at the sun and absorbing the sun's energy. The rest of the Wikipedia page is explaining why it is a terrible, terrible idea and why you should never do it and not to be an idiot. There are actually people who have written books and claim that they have gone several years without eating or drinking, and when they have when they've been called out on it before by people who want to witness them try to survive even just a few days without eating or drinking, lo and behold, they are not able to do it. They go 4 days and then they end up passing out and they have to go to the hospital or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my little blurb. Continue with whatever we were saying.
Some people. I don't even remember where we were.
Oh, well, I mean, considering that in our day and age we are able to get full nutrition from a vegetarian diet, we could say that we cannot justify eating meat at all. We're saying if we do eat meat, then it is completely unjustified suffering because we can get our protein from elsewhere. If we eat a vegetarian diet, then we are minimizing the amount of suffering that is being caused while still bringing about some good, while still doing good to ourselves. So can we say that eating meat, period, is immoral?
Well, I'm not going to say it's immoral at all. Here's where I stand, personally. I'm no vegetarian, and I was at one point, for ethical reasons, and more because I wasn't sure where I stood, so I thought it better safe than not to just go vegetarian and get used to it, and then whatever I find out I find out. And if I stay vegetarian, awesome. And if not, even better. So, what I thought and what I considered was I'm a pretty heavy proponent of social contract theory.
I thought you hated social contract theory.
No, I love that stuff, man. It's my bread and butter.
Really?
Yeah.
Then why do you always like let out a groan every time Kevin wants to talk about it?
Oh, because he wants to. Because we always talk about it.
Yeah, I know. Is that just why you hate discussing it with him?
No, I'd love discussing it with him.
Oh,
I love Kevin.
well, yeah, I know. I thought you hated social contract theory.
No, I love social contract theory.
No, well,
I'm a deontologist, bro.
I'm actually thinking about doing my senior thesis on. Well, I'm trying to work on like social contract theory, but like revamping into, ecosystem theory, social ecosystem theory. I don't know. To try to combine environmental ethics and social contract theory, essentially. Ecology, whatever.
GFY.
Huh?
Never mind. Anyways, so what? Yeah. So under social contract theory, there's no reason to not eat meat, but at the same hand, there's no reason to not go out and punch kittens, which is problematic because there seems to be something a little funky about someone who goes out and punches kittens, and you don't really consider them a moral bastion. So it's a little bit of gray area. So I'm going to want to say there's nothing inherently wrong with going out and punching kittens.
Well,
Just hold me,
okay.
because I gotta explain myself because I'm already.
I know. That's why I was going to ask you to explain yourself. Like when you say according to social contract theory, well, why is that the case?
All right. So there's nothing inherently wrong with punching kittens in and of itself, except for the fact that yes, by doing so, you all are causing a detriment to your own psyche, whatnot. But the detriment you're causing, the reason not to is because you're making yourself, feel weird. You are bringing back your craziness to society. So you also have a moral obligation to other people, but ultimately your moral obligation rests with the society itself.
Right.
So there's still a greater good at play. And so for the preservation of a moderate, stable, sane, and nonviolent society, which ultimately is a goal. I mean, that's utopia.
Right.
It can't be okay to have outlets for violence that cause suffering.
That is to say that kitten punching would be deviating a tad bit too far from what is considered the norm.
Teensy bit.
Just a little bit. Just a little out of hand.
Teensy bit. It's also so it's totally cool though to eat cows. Factory farming is one of those things that it seems like that there's some definitely moral gray areas there because you are causing a lot of unnecessary pain to a lot of these animals. There's definitely other ethical ways to go about farming animals. The question is it's being done this way and it's being done efficiently. So there's no incentive to change from one mode to another. Bill, did you have something?
Oh, I was actually looking for my phone.
Oh,
yeah.
not smart. Well, anyways.
Anyway, is it worth considering? Even when it comes to factory farming, is it worth considering selfish causes that factory farmed animals tend to be in unsanitary conditions? It can be detrimental to your health, or considering the environmental costs of producing beef, the amount of energy and water that goes to producing beef as opposed to a vegetarian diet is many times higher. It requires many more resources. If we look at it from that perspective, then we're only considering the societal factors of it. We're only thinking of ourselves in that way. So even from that perspective, can we say that it is wrong then to eat beef as opposed to a vegetarian diet if it is harmful to society?
It seems like, yeah. it seems like that's the case. And there's a staggering amount of philosophical evidence for going vegetarian or going some kind of sideline vegan type thing.
Yeah, or even just cutting back.
Yeah.
Just meatless Monday.
Yeah, cutting back. There's no problem with that. I mean, it's a more modern phenomenon to have meat with every meal, and that wasn't the norm. It wasn't. I mean, I don't mean to buy into the paleo diet. I don't do it, and I want to call that out as being a naturalistic fallacy. But there's no evidence that in early days humans ate meat, even as hunter-gatherer societies, on a regular basis.
Rarity.
Yeah,
and
like you had meat like 1 or 2 times a week.
Yeah, and primarily like hunter and gathering tribes, even back then, they didn't even do so much hunting as they did scavenging.
Yeah,
most of the meat that they did consume was scavenging off of other killed animals that were left behind. You know, a lot of protein came from bone marrow specifically, and then a majority of the rest of the diet was gathering. You know, gathering nearby fruits and nuts, grains, things of that nature.
Tubers.
Yes.
Tubers. Such a fun word.
Yeah.
So it does appear that if you're going to weigh things morally, it looks like it's more moral to go out and do vegetarian diets. Okay. Again, why? Let's recap. It takes a lot more resources to
produce a pound of beef as opposed to producing a pound of grain or pasta. Like an example, if you were to get the amount of resources that goes into producing a pound of beef as opposed to producing a pound of pasta is so staggering that even if you were to buy pasta that was shipped halfway across the world, even if it was shipped from Italy, it still has a lower carbon footprint than if you were to buy locally grown beef.
Yeah.
Because the energy consumption of producing beef is many, many times higher, like 20, 25 times higher.
Now, the question is, and I'm not a nutritionist, so I can't claim 100% specifically. There is, however, a different amount of nutrients in a pound of steak, as there is however many pounds of whole grains that were fed to this cow. So that is problematic. And I know that a couple of friends I had who were vegetarians, they had some problems with the diet because they couldn't properly intake some nutrients without supplements and weird stuff like that.
It's usually protein and vitamin B12 and iron is what people worry about when it comes to vegetarian diets.
Yeah.
I mean, there are ways that you can get that, but a lot of times you have to end up taking supplements, so you have to actively seek out alternatives to that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say stop eating meat. I would never say that. I love bacon. I love filet mignon. I love pork and ham. I love lamb.
Get to the point.
You ever had a shawarma?
Get to the point. We're wrapping up.
All right. So it seems like the case. Yeah, there's no real great way to justify animal rights. And it's been back and forth. If you're interested, I would highly suggest a book or a collection of books, any book really, by Peter Singer that deals with the topic. He's a current contemporary philosopher. He deals with utilitarianism. He has a number of excellent arguments for animal rights and animal ethics. And a lot of them are fascinating. That was my first brush with animal rights. Check them out. See what you think about them. But bear in mind, it does seem to be the case that there are some basic ethical considerations to be given to animals. Maybe not rights, but ethical considerations, where it's what's right and what's wrong to do with regards to how you treat animals.
And we didn't really get into this too much, but you are right in that perhaps we could give them some considerations, but not necessarily on the same level as we do other humans. We can't treat all other living things the same way we do all humans. That would just not be able to function correctly.
Precisely.
Especially because, like, yes, other animals, they cannot reciprocate that kind of moral responsibility. They don't feel any kind of obligation to treat us well, even if we have even if we feel an obligation to treat them well. We didn't really get too, I'm actually kind of bummed out. We didn't get into the personhood debate and like what is necessarily that separates humans from animals. What is that qualifies us as a person, whereas animals fail to fit into that category.
We can do it next time, or we can always put it on that blog we've been meaning to start.
Oh yeah, the blog that we technically started and then never did anything.
Yeah,
should work on that.
probably. All right.
Anyway, well, we can get into this next week too. Get into the personhood thing. Why not?
All right, that sounds good. So look forward to us next week. We'll be talking about personhood with regards to animal rights, and specifically, if you get the chance, look up dolphins. Dolphins are actually the other animal at the moment that's being considered by a number of scientists to have the quality of personhood, which means they have rights, just like people do.
Meaning that, yeah, they would be on the same playing field as
people.
Well, I mean, they would qualify as people in a sense.
Maybe.
But what does that mean to qualify as a person, Caleb?
I don't know, Bill.
Tune in next time to find out.
All right.
All right.
Take it easy, guys. I'm going to play off with some Submotion Orchestra. Cheers.